All right. So one thing I wanna throw out there, that politicians love to divide Americans by Democrat and Republican and liberal and conservative and all that. But when it comes to Social Security, we are all on the same team. Basically, every study out there that shows it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, a vast majority of Americans want Social Security to be strengthened, it to be kept here, and to make sure there are no cuts in the future. As of right now, according to the Social Security trustees, the Congressional Budget Office, all the rest of it, there are going to be cuts in the future, very, very close, 2033 or 2034, about 21%. If some of the things happen over the next few years, then it's going to be even more sooner. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we reach out to our politicians and say, hey, all of us, doesn't matter what color hat you wear, we support Social Security and we want you to take care of Social Security. So if you don't support President Trump on anything else, let's support him in terms of protecting Social Security. And if he does the right thing, we'll say, great, you did the right thing. And if he doesn't, then we will call him out on it.
Hi, everybody. Johnny Garza here with Fight for Decency. Thank you very much for tuning into my channel and hearing what I got to say. What you just heard was a former Social Security Administration insider, Dr. Weir, who handled the third most busiest Social Security office in America. He was talking about Project 2025 and how the present administration is working towards cutting benefits up to 25%, I believe. You want to watch that video again. And also on purpose understaffing Social Security. So that's really, really important, people, that we're heading towards Social Security cuts. And they're making good on their promise. The neoliberals that set this up in the late 70s, early 80s, they're following through with their plan to make life harder on the middle class. So it's really important that we understand what's going on, and we fight back. As you know, my channel's not about talking about the problems that we have in America, because we have a lot of people on YouTube right now that are doing a really good job of that, pointing out the problems that we're facing as working class citizens in America. Now the wealthy are doing just fine. They're having their heyday. They're the best it's ever been. The stock market prices are real high and they're making a lot of money. They're getting a lot of wealth. All our income is going to the top 1%. And so this channel and this ideas or these is not about that, nor is it about what I noticed a lot lately is people go on YouTube and start talking about the orange man, and before they're talking about the sleepy man. It's not about red team versus blue team. Surely there's a lot to say about both the former President Biden and the current President Trump. But in my view, our issue isn't necessarily red team versus blue team. And that's the game they want us to play. They want us to, and a lot of people spend a lot of time doing that, and it's really unfortunate. I think it's so unfortunate. I get on these channels and I hear these people, and that's what they do. They just dog Trump, and I try to tell these people in the comments, look, our issue isn't red team versus blue team. Yeah, sure, Trump is that, and Biden was the other, but our problem goes a lot deeper, where both Biden and Trump agree. Red team and the blue team both agree on certain things, and that thing that they agree on is to make sure that you and I, as working class people, have a lower standard of living. They're working real hard on that, both of them together at the same time. They're in cahoots. They're in agreement with this, and this is what this channel is all about. First of all, talking about those things that really matter. Now, not to disparage those people that have a problem with Trump, or those people that had a problem with Biden. But why aren't we talking about what's more important? And that's the future of your children. Okay, so somebody might make the argument, the orange man is dumb and his economic ideas are dumb. And yeah, that goes to your future prosperity, right? But Can you say that Biden was any better? Can you say that Obama was any better? That Bush was any better? That Reagan was any better? That Clinton was any better? Our standard of living has been whittled away lower and lower since the late 70s, early 80s, to the point now that it's truly, clearly, by now, everybody understands that oligarchy runs our country. Not a representative government, but oligarchy. And that's what we really should be talking about. The fact that we have something in common, the red team and the blue team, those who are conservative and those who are liberal. And that what we have in common is that we both want our children to prosper in the future. We want to give our children a country where they can prosper. You know, they can be happy and flourish. And but nobody's talking about that. There are a few. Like I discovered a guy just yesterday. His name is Gary Stevenson from the UK, and he makes a point that we have to fight inequality and this wealth inequality, that people, those at the top, are taking all the wealth and all the resources. And he makes a point that we as working class people now have to compete with the wealthy for resources because they own everything. They own everything, and then they turn around and they say, now you could have a little bit, but I'm going to rent it to you, and they're able to raise the prices. What's interesting about Gary Stevenson is that he'll never mention the word neoliberal. That's really interesting. And here recently I heard a speech or an interview he gave in the UK talking about the left has to come up with a better economic ideas. But he never mentioned modern monetary theory. So it makes me wonder. I just discovered the guy today. He makes a lot of sense, personally. I mean, he's right when he sees that, and he argues that our issue is inequality. Now, we all know, well, we're trying to educate people about this is the real issue that we're facing, inequality as citizens and wealth as well, wealth inequality. So it's, it's tough. It really is tough to, I'll comment. I'll comment on these people's channels and say, come on, guys, you're better than this. You're smart. You got a YouTube channel. You got a following. You got a lot of people who listen to you. You figured this out technically. You know what I mean? You have a brain. You're thinking. You're looking. How come you can't see that? How come you can't see that the most important thing that we need to work on is a strategy to overcome neoliberalism? Why don't you talk about that? Interesting. Gary Stevenson did give an answer in this interview. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to link his video on the description. I think I said that right. And his answer was that those people in power, the oligarchs that voted their representatives in Congress and the Senate that supposedly represents the people, they have a lot to lose. They have skin in the game, right? They don't want these representatives talking about economics, because once we start to understand better the basics of modern money and neoliberalism, what has happened to our country over the last 30, 40 years, then we'll get educated. And that's the last thing they want, right? These oligarchs, these rich people don't want educated population, because once we're educated, maybe we can come up with some ideas like I did on how to fight back. But he said that these people have a vested interest in not talking about economics, because they work for these oligarchs, and these oligarchs pay them good money. And there's a good reason why university professors don't talk about the new economic perspectives or inequality in their economic models, because they also have a cush job. It's very much in their interest to not say anything, right? So this is what we're facing. This is the kind of stuff we're facing when we're fighting back and trying to get a decent society, one that works for both labor and business, because we're capitalists. Much to the chagrin of Professor Richard Wolff, and maybe even Michael Hudson, who's a Marxist. We are capitalists. We're not socialists. and we're not communists. But I always say, if socialism is a dirty word, which the right has made it such a pejorative word, then I say neoliberalism is a foul stench. Once you understand what it is, and the fact that it is because of that ideology that both the left and the right in our society latched onto and started in the late 70s, early 80s. Once you understand that, you'll see that, yeah, socialism is a good word compared to what neoliberalism is, because now we have the receipts. We have 30 years of neoliberal economic policies. And what's interesting is that these people in power understand this. They don't want to talk about economics, and they find ways to circumvent the conversation. Today it's immigration, and it's quite obvious, right? I mean, it's simple, blame the fascists, blame the other. Whatever you do, don't talk about economics. Don't study economics. Don't study what happened in the late 70s, early 80s, how the neoliberal era began, and from that point on, we've seen our wages stagnate. So people, come on, talk about it, study it. You people who are dogging Trump, yeah, you got every reason to dog Trump. That pendejo, you know what I mean? He's not all there, right? He's an idiot. He's an embarrassment, personally, to me. To have him, he's like Biden. He's an embarrassment. The guy couldn't even freaking put two words together. And you ask yourself, who's controlling this? Well, it's obvious. It's not presidents who preside. Trump is a different story. He's a useful idiot. I mean, in my opinion. But that's another thing. If you look, like I tell everybody, listen, when you go to my YouTube channel, please watch the YouTube video called The Prerequisite for Free and Fair Elections. I might change that to make it prerequisite for a decent society or something like that. I might change the wording, but look for the word prerequisite and watch that video. It's an introduction video. And in that video, I tell people you got to have 4 things in order to get your country back from the oligarchs who have taken it from us. And it's understand neoliberalism, understand modern monetary theory, understand the first step in getting our country back, and understand the power that you have to get it back. Those 4 things. And then what I've done is I've made short clips of all 4 of those things, video clips on my introduction, that it pretty much gives you a basic idea of what this is all about. Once you see that, study it. Take some time, study it a little bit further. On my YouTube channel, I also got a 5-part series on what is called This is Neoliberalism, if you want to go further, right? And then on modern monetary theory, it's just a whole bunch of stuff there you could watch. And then, of course, Lawrence Lessig's TED Talk on how we get free and fair elections, which is the first step in getting our country back. So watch that video. Watch before you watch it and learn it. And once you get comfortable with the concepts, then make your own video and call it whatever you want. I call this Fight for Decency, the strategy that I'm putting forth out here. It's Fight for Decency. It's radical, it's bold, and you do have to have courage to do it. And the courage, what I mean by courage, is the fact that you are going to do something that might be frightening because you don't know the outcome. The uncertainty of the simple act of showing yourself as a patriot ready to fight the oligarchy. But it's smart because the power that we're going to exert on the oligarchs to give up that power and give the country back to us is such that what they use as a weapon towards us, which is our debt, we're going to turn it around. We're going to take that debt and we're going to put it right back on them. Not in the form of, now you got that debt, but rather, you want me in debt? I'll show you debt. What are they going to do with that? Listen, some people might be fearful also because they think that we're trying to collapse the government. That's not what this is about. And they may try, right? But we know better. We have a constitution. We have a form of government. We have government. It's in place. What all we're doing, nothing's changing. All we're doing is getting rid of oligarchy, who controls and took over our government. That's all we're doing. Our constitution's intact, our law's intact, everything's intact. We're just making a point and saying, you will no longer rule over me. I will be governed by consent, not by rich people who use their money to have picked their candidate to represent their interests and then turn around and say, now it's your turn to vote. I'm sorry, that's not a representative government. That's oligarchy. Right? All we're doing is, with power, telling the oligarchy that will no longer fly. You see, you got to remember, protests doesn't work. You can't put up your sign and say, come on, be nice here, be reasonable here, They don't listen to that. We have to speak their language, and their language is power. And there is a way. There is a way. So, please, folks, you can do better than this. Stop it already, okay? Stop it. Yeah. Let's talk about what really matters here. Let's get educated about what has been done to us and how we're going to go forward, how we're going to fight back. Let's talk about that. Social Security. This guy is talking about how by 2033, 2034, they're going to cut our Social Security benefits to 25%. And they're on purpose underfunding the Social Security Administration. And you got in this video, you got this congressman out of Louisiana making the point that, they don't want to go to work. That it's like a television, teledoc, that kind of thing. And it's a red herring. It's stupid. They underfund the Social Security on purpose, and those who took over our government. Okay? So, come on, guys. Let's talk about it. Somebody, anybody, let's just talk about it. Look at my strategy, take a look at it, and say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, it don't. Email me at fightfordecency2027@gmail.com, or comment on these videos. Spread it out, study it a little bit, and once you understand, start passing the word. There are four things you got to do to get your country back. And believe it or not, honestly, truthfully, with all sincerity, do you want a decent government by and for the people? It really is within our grasp, especially with a president right now who may be an idiot in my sense, but one thing that he's more than he's a neoliberal, more than he's an idiot, more than he's a cult leader, more than he's an embarrassment, he is one thing, which is vain. Very vain. And if we do it right, we will take advantage of that vanity, and he will go down in history puffing out his chest saying, I was the president that gave the people back their country. Now, I don't know, some people, it's kind of like, that's hard to swallow, right? Because such a, but he's that vain, and he would do it if he was put in a position where the whole nation were going to sit at home for 60 days and talk to one another about what we might do next. Yeah. To avoid that, you give us free and fair elections and a mere vote on universal health care. And we don't go on a sabbatical. Truck drivers won't park their trucks for 60 days. And you'll give us that, right? And he will go down in history as the president that gave the people free and fair elections. Isn't that a kicker? We just have to be smart. I think it was, I was watching, I'll close with this. You see, I have a really big advantage. And that advantage is that I drive a truck for a living, right? And I'm on YouTube listening to podcasts, and I've got all this time during the day as I'm driving to listen and educate myself about all these things, and that's an advantage. And a lot of people don't have that, so I feel very fortunate that I can speak to you with a little bit of clarity, a little bit of education about these things. So I was listening to Aristotle, a guy talking about Aristotle in his book Politics, and how it was Aristotle's ideas of oligarchy and democracy, how democracy is bad and oligarchy is bad. And he was talking about how it is that the way you overcome oligarchy is very carefully, very slowly, not all at once, and definitely not with violent revolution, right? But he also said something very, and I felt really happy because these are things that I was thinking about, and it was really, really how you call self-satisfying to me to understand that, gosh, I'm in line. I'm not Aristotle, of course, right? But I'm thinking along his lines, right? Along what and I never read the book Politics, right? I just heard this guy talking about, Aristotle's philosophy, and what Aristotle said was that when you overthrow oligarchy, it's more about timing than it is about strength. And now is the time. And he was talking about how in politics, that Aristotle said that usually when they're at the peak, they're arrogant, and you can find cracks in the oligarchy, and you can take advantage of that. I found a crack, and I think that crack is to take advantage of the vanity of Trump. That because he will do it. He will use a bully pulpit, and he will give the people free and fair elections and tell the oligarchy to screw themselves. If it meant that he's going to go down in history as the president that did that, he'll do it in a New York minute. And he's a dummy. I'm sorry, guys, Trump voters. It's just my feeling. I didn't vote for the guy, right? It's just the way I feel. So there you have it. Watch please like, share, and subscribe like you've never done before. Because what I'm asking you when you say like, share, and subscribe, you're actually liking the idea of fighting back in this particular way, this strategy, sharing it in the sense that you're going to learn it better, and you're going to be able to put it in your own words. Call it whatever you want. I call it the fight for decency. You call it, as long as you cover those 4 things. And subscribe in the sense that you want to hear a little bit more about the strategy and a little bit more about what I learned about why this is the most important thing we need to be talking about. Thanks. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for coming. Where this former Social Security Administration officer went wrong is when he said that we should be calling our senators, our representatives, to not allow this cut in Social Security. That's where we went wrong. We don't have representation in America. Oligarchs have representation. We don't. So let's be clear on that. But he is somebody who we can say is a credible person, knows what he's talking about, being a former Social Security Administration official, and knowing and keeping up with this. I'm gonna put a link on the description to this guy's channel so you can follow him and get a little bit more informed.